So what happened is some years ago, when the UFO phenomenon became popular, particularly after Roswell and sightings of that time, we started to investigate our universe, and we started to realize those little blobs of light out there were millions and billions of light years away. So the idea, which is called the extraterrestrial hypothesis, that real aliens are traveling in real spaceships and visiting the Earth, we know, that's a physical impossibility. So in recent years, it's taken on a very, very spiritual form, and it's called the interdimensional hypothesis. So people still want the aliens to be real, but instead of visiting us in real physical spaceships, they're visiting us interdimensionally. And I remember watching a cable TV program here where a lady was sitting there and she claimed to be channeling an alien being. And the interviewer said, thinking she's talking to the alien, why do you have to use this woman's body? And she says, we've evolved, there's that word again, to such a high spiritual state, we don't need spaceships anymore, we can just will ourselves around wherever we want because the atoms in our body move so fast, etc. So it has become, if you like, a unifying belief, and they claim that all the great religions of the world are in fact mistaken somewhat, and that they actually point to our alien creators, that the Elohim in the Bible, for example, is not talking about the Trinity. Those ancient Bible writers mistook, aliens for gods. And I remember, for example, being at a meeting in Australia some years ago, showing some pictures by a lady who claimed to be a Christian even, and she claimed that the aliens had visited her, given her a reinterpretation of the Bible. She claims that Elijah was raptured actually into a spaceship, that Moses was spoken to through the burning bush by a radio transmitter being down by the mothership, and that UFOs parted the Red Sea. She was given those ideas by a Presbyterian minister in this country, by the way, by the name of the Reverend Dr. Barry Downing. And I mentioned that in the meeting, and, a middle-aged gentleman stood up with his wife and said, what's wrong with that? After all, Jesus was just an advanced extraterrestrial. That's how he could turn water into wine, raise the dead. It was by virtue of his advanced technology. He was not really God.
So, Gary, is all of this going to really help lay the foundation for the acceptance of, let's say, the Antichrist, who, as the Scripture says, will perform counterfeit miracles, signs, and wonders?
Yeah, obviously we deal with origins issues at Creation Ministries International. We try not to get into areas of eschatology, but let me say this, whether that is or isn't going to be, I could not see a better explanation, because in fact most of the UFO writings, and particularly the writings that claim to have been channeled to receivers here on the earth, do have an eschatology, and it seems to strongly actually follow the idea that people are going to be whisked away off the earth into spaceships. That sounds like the rapture, obviously, that premillennialists believe in. So it seems to have a very, very strong leaning towards that particular type of eschatology, I have to say.
So you could even say that the rapture, the world could identify the rapture as being the aliens removed the problem, and the problem was the Christians. And I know there was a paper written at a military school, officer school up in Kansas, that we talked about last year on our radio show, that said the reason there's not peace in the world is because of the Christians, particularly the Christians that defend Israel. Then we have this Lynn White, who's written a book saying that the ecological crisis is to be blamed on the Christians who destroyed pagan animism, spirit beings within nature. So you could very easily see where the world says, see, the aliens took the problem out of the world, the Christians, and they'll use UFOs and the aliens removing Christians as the explanation of the rapture. Could that happen?
Absolutely. I think that is absolutely quite possible. If indeed that's going to happen, probably in our time or not too distant future. I know for many years people have been looking at people in history and trying to identify the Antichrist, for example, or try to identify what would be the cause of the rapture. And as I say, regardless of my own personal views on end times, but I would say that I could not find a better explanation than to have millions of Christians whisked away than blame it on aliens taking away the problem, for example. And that's what their own writings say. So it doesn't even have to be my opinions, because the aliens' writings actually state those particular things.
So indeed, this whole idea of universalism, all the religions of the world lead to the same path, is being furthered and can be furthered through this increase in UFOs and the extraterrestrial and the spirit beings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was John Mack, who's now deceased, a former Harvard psychiatrist that wrote one of the best-selling books on UFOs. He showed that most contactees end up, if you like, becoming sort of advocates of a New Age religion or New Age existentialist ideas, for example. So, that was a non-Christian saying that was, in fact, their life-altering experience led them to, if you like, an alternative religious belief. And it's interesting that some of the visitors today, the names apparently of aliens, in fact, seem to have names that are very, very similar to some of the Old Testament gods like Ashtaroth and this type of thing. Remember the Ashtar poles that King Ahab put up, for example. So I managed to find these links time and time again. You mentioned about also modern people. I mentioned to you on the weekend, for example, Louis Farrakhan,
yes,
the Nation of Islam leader, is a former alien abductee, apparently, and he even has aliens within, if you like, his brand of Islamic eschatology as well.
Wow! So he thinks he was abducted by aliens. Yep.
Well, Mother Tuella, who is the wife of his mentor, Elijah Muhammad, claimed that the 9/11 attacks were actually inspired by UFOs, and that UFOs were seen in the area as well.
Didn't
so
Jimmy
there are
Carter...
all these conspiratorial ideas that fit in very, very well, and the fact that we're now mentioning that the UN is appointing an ambassador. There is a worldwide movement happening at the moment called disclosure. People could just type in UFO disclosure, and you will see UFO groups actually getting together for the first time, being organized to petition governments around the world to try to force them to tell the truth, in inverted commas, about UFOs, because they believe that the government's been covering it up for a long time.
Didn't Jimmy Carter claim to have seen a UFO?
Yeah, he did. That's mentioned in my book. He actually gave a vivid description of what he saw, and of course he promised that if he became president, it was during his election campaign, that he would tell the truth. But that only adds to the conspiracy, because he did become president, he didn't say anything, so of course he was advised to keep it quiet, hush it up, and never mention it anymore. So no matter whether you say anything or whether you don't, as I said, the UFO believers will always draw a conclusion.
Yeah, and then U.S. Senator Kinich or whatever his name is out of Ohio said that he saw a UFO on Shirley MacLaine's property. That made news about a year or so ago.
Governor of Arizona, there's articles on our website. Paul Hellyer, the former Canadian Defence Minister, is a former UFO sighter.
We're about out of time. Give your website real quick one more time.
Sure. Well, I type those names in. It's Creation Ministries International. The website is creation.com. That's pretty easy to remember.
Creation.com. All right. Thanks, Gary, for joining us. I'm Brannon Howse, folks. We'll be right back.